Okay, so I've got Kerie Logan on this podcast. So Kerie has helped people from all over the globe basically live better lives. I think it's a great way to say it, really, and live lives they love, which is a nice way to see things. So you've been a human consciousness guide and empowerment strategist for over 20 years, which is wow. So that goes back to, and in 2004, I think you were awarded the best coach of the year at the PCH yearly convention. So welcome to the podcast, Kerie. Great to have you here. Great to meet you, really, from my perspective. I read your bio and thought, wow, you're a really good fit for our audience, for the people that listen to us and follow us. And obviously, you've got a lot to bring to the table, which is great. So, do you want to give us your quick bio, really?
Well, first, thank you for having me here, Andy. It's very sweet and kind to be on your show. We are very similar, like-minded, the way that we work with, higher dimensional beings and how we use that in our practice, which I think just takes it a leap more forwards because I'm a hypnotherapist. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've been voted the best hypnotherapist for my area for the past 15 consecutive years, which
Wow,
is
that's
really good.
amazing. That is
Yes,
amazing, actually.
thank you. And what I love to do, and what I think is more my niche, is I'm an intuitive hypnotherapist. So when someone comes in, I'm kind of like reading them. And the best way to describe me, as clients have said, my nickname's the pinhole of light. So what
Fantastic.
I know, and some people say, no, you're a lighthouse because I can just blast. So the way that I do it is you come here and you tell me your pain story. What is keeping you stuck? And I figure out vibrationally where you are set, and I have charts and I actually channeled this information like what is 3D human consciousness. So in that range, the majority of the people that I work with are stuck in the frequency range of 100, which is fear. And I'll go over the list and they'll just be like, oh my God, that's everything I put on my phone that I'm worried about. So if you align with fear, you're restless, irritable, anxiety, withdrawn, nervousness, guarded, hypervigilant, suspicious, wishy-washy, fear of failure. You second guess yourself often. Your mind stews often, like you could have trouble sleeping or going back to sleep, and you have an inability of trusting people. And sometimes even an inability of trusting yourself. And so what I do is I tell them my job is to get you up to what I call 4D human consciousness. And the very first step is courage. I want you to have the courage and curiosity to problem solve together, where you're determined and focused, you can have creative thoughts and solutions, and you're open to learning something new. I want you to look at your pain story from a different perspective, a different lens, not as a victim, but from a higher state of consciousness. And so what I do is I start to unravel it. That's kind of like where I I listen to my intuition and I ask certain discovery questions. Well, what about this? What about that? And I don't, if someone's been abused by another person, I'm not justifying their behaviors or making excuses for their behaviors, but I want to let them realize that this pain is keeping you stuck. It's blocked. It's literally like you have the memories in your consciousness, but the emotions are stuck in your body, whether it's in your heart, your solar plexus, your chakras, your hips, your lower back, where it's stuck is that's what it is. And sometimes people need inner child work. Sometimes people need parts therapy because they can have fragmented parts because they got traumatized by certain things. And so it's a really nice way to first unravel it and get them to the place where they really see it logically. And a better way to describe this is these charts. And I think all your listeners will get this, is when someone gets mad, what do we tell them to do? Calm down. Get grounded, balanced, and centered, because we all know through life experiences that if we make an action step, a choice in that anger, it's going to be that lowered vibrational platform of revenge, hate, bitterness, spite, jealousy, envy, and you are going to blow your world apart. You've got to get grounded, balanced, and centered to solve your problems. And that is really, really true, because then you can come from it from a more higher objective platform of this isn't, what is in the best interest of you or that other person. And the hardest thing for us humans to learn is acceptance. Can you accept that person just who they are? Yeah, they're mean, they're nasty, they're bitter, but can you really just have grace and accept that they are on their own journey and they're a profound teacher of the polar opposite? That's why they say kind people get hurt. These jerks are our teachers, teaching us to set healthy boundaries, teaching us to stand in our truth and speak our truth with courage and with a healthy sense of pride and self-confidence. It's all those things. And that's why I say we're here on earth to learn lessons. Everyone is a teacher and student for one another. So we have to get out of our human experience all that pain, and we have to step into the soul's journey of why am I here? Why? I'm here to grow. I'm here to evolve. And I'm here to deal with people that are very unpleasant and very unkind, but they're going to mold me into someone that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to kind of capture it, really. So, in terms of your sort of own path, I guess, sort of rewinding, how did you find yourself doing the work that you're doing now? Was that part of your journey, I guess, really, as well?
It's, I actually did a YouTube video about how I became a hypnotherapist, because so many people are like, well, you weren't a little girl going, ooh, I want to be a hypnotherapist. You know, of course I wasn't. It literally was handed to me. It was interesting because I I was living up in Oregon at the time. I was a single mom, and 9/11 just happened, and it was a horrible, horrible, experience. And I got laid off and I couldn't find a job. And I ran out of my second round of unemployment benefits, and I was going to be homeless, literally homeless. The state would help me put my stuff in storage, but I'd have to live in my car or in a shelter with my daughter, and I wasn't going to do that. And I had a friend give me a reading, and she said that you've done everything you need to do here. The perfect job is waiting for you in California, and it's what you're meant to do. Exactly what you're meant to do. And I looked at her and I said, I can't move back home. I'm a single mom. I don't get child support or anything. It's so expensive there. She said, no, the job's going to be handed to you. This is what your calling is. And so, like most people, I kind of fought it until I was going to literally be evicted from the place I was renting, and I didn't want that on my credit report. So I got a hold of a family friend in the Sacramento area, and I said, can I stay with you and look for work? And they said yes. So I packed everything up. The state helped me put my stuff in storage, and I went down there. And a week later, I got a phone call from a gentleman that said, can I meet you in an hour and a half? I really, really want to meet you, and I want to talk to you about this job I have. And all he said on the job was he wanted someone with sales and management experience, sales and marketing too, and wanted to make the world a better place. And I'm like, yes, that's me. And so I go there, and it was positive changes hypnosis. And I was so excited. I walked in and I was like, I know all about hypnotherapy and meditation. I grew up on that, creative visualization. And he gives me a tour. And when we're sitting in the conference room, I had this 3-inch binder with all my letters of recommendations, things I've done. I said, "Do you want to see my portfolio?" And he said, "Oh, no, you've already got the job. I knew I was going to hire you the minute I read your resume." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yes, the job is yours." So she was correct. And I did so well there that they were video recording me teaching certain classes and stuff. Now, here's the kicker though. The owner wanted me to be trained in hypnosis. So I got all free training. I got training in weight loss, stop smoking, pain management, birthing, cancer. I mean, just a list, personal change, huge, huge list. Got an award from them in 2004. But here's where it gets interesting is I became best friends with one of the brothers that started that company. It was Michael Porter and Patrick Porter that started Positive Changes Hypnosis. And Michael was my district manager. And he said, "I have met hundreds of hypnotherapists, but I've never met anyone like you." And he said, "As soon as I knew about your spiritual side, what you do, that was the cherry on top." He's like, "You were too good for us. You should have your own business." And like most people, I was stuck in fear. I'm a single mom. I can't have my own business. I can't do this. He said, "No, you can." And he was gracious enough to give me software, $500 worth of software,
Wow.
web development, and said, "Yes, you can do this." And I came up with the business name, Empowered Within, because that's what spoke to me. No, you're going to be empowered within. And I took the web development classes. He said you can't advertise, hypnosis, but you can advertise meditation in certain areas, because there was a non-compete clause, 2-year non-compete. And so this is where it gets interesting. The day before Thanksgiving, I got in a disagreement with the owner's sister. And I went to my manager and I said, "Hey, I think she's trying to get me fired." And she said, "Actually, she is. And here's your final check." Day
Wow.
before Thanksgiving. Yes. And I was like, "What? You guys just gave me an award this year. I'm the best one. I got like 3 months of clients booked with people. How can you do that?" And she looked at me and she said, "She's family and you're not. So you have to go."
Mm.
I know. So this is where it gets really beautiful, Andy. I went home and I prayed and I said, "God, if this is my calling, what I am meant to do, give me a sign that is so clear I can't mistake it because I love what I do. I know this is my gift. I know this is my calling." And I was guided after I prayed to call that lady. Of course, she didn't pick up her phone. I left her a voicemail, but I thanked her for firing me. And I said, "I'm going to look back one day as a blessing in disguise. So thank you. Really, really thank you. I have no hard feelings for you. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving." The very next day, a client that is still my best friend came over to her Thanksgiving meal and she's had a card with her. And she said, "I feel so bad what they did to you. I can't understand why," but she said, "I've been sitting on this nest egg and I want to give it to you. No strings attached." And I opened the Thanksgiving card and inside was a check for $10,000. She said, "I want you to start your own business." And when I told Michael Porter about what happened, he said, "Well, the universe had to kick you in the butt because you were so dedicated. You would not have willingly left us on your own. And now God has just given you this gift. Start your own business, Kerie. Everyone's been telling you that. Do it." And so that is how I started off. And then in 2012, I woke up one day and what speaks to me said, "You're going to write this book. And here's the table of contents. And go sit in front of your computer and start typing." And I did. I wrote Affirming and Focusing on Living a Better Life. And when I got to chapter 2, understanding the power of our emotions, is when I channeled this information of what is 3D human consciousness, what is 4, and what is 5. And I was so amazed. I was like, oh my God, I wonder if there's any clinical data to back this. And I was told there is. Go online. And so I listened and I went online and I found Dr. David Hawkins' work. He did the map of human consciousness. He wrote the book Power versus Force. And I was like, oh my God, does he know what he got? Because what spoke to me is this is the pathway to the kingdom of heaven. It's not a place. It's a state of being, a state of embodiment. You are an unconditionally loving person, a peaceful person, a harmonious person, a joyful person. You are wise, you are forgiving, you accept people, you're patient, compassionate, understanding, you're grounded, you're balanced, and you're one with everything. There is no separation. You honor and respect everything. And you treat people the way that you want to be treated. And so when I tried actually to get a hold of him to tell him, do you know what you found? Literally, this is the pathway to what God wants us all to achieve. He died that year. So a lot of people wondered if he was coming down speaking to me because he didn't get to complete his work. He never separated it into 3D, 4D, and 5D. And so what speaks to me said, just work with all your clients to have them line up to the frequency of unconditional love. Just have everybody line up there. And when I started doing that and raising everybody's vibration and energy up and clearing all the garbage out, amazing things happened. Amazing, Andy. I mean, there's one gentleman that owns lifecoachspotter.com. When he had 100 coaches on there, this was back in 2012, he contacted me and he said, I want to make you an offer. I've got 100 coaches on here, but you are different. You're different from everybody else. And everyone is like, oh my God, she's amazing. You got to work with this woman. And he was like, so I want to make you an offer for 6 months. I'm going to give you every person that comes in if you coach me. And I did. I coached that guy so well that and he was able to put his stuff in storage and travel the world with his wife for a year.
Well, that's a remarkable story, isn't it, actually? Wow.
Yes, and I coached his wife. This was a kicker too. Coached his wife, and I told her at the time she was an accountant and did taxes and stuff. And I told her, you have 2 babies. You have 2 babies that want to come in, but your work doesn't allow you to have kids. It's so time consuming. Yeah, and she was like, I want a family, and I've been thinking about leaving my work. And it's like what spoke to me knew what her heart desired, but she wasn't wanting to share it. But when I sit with people, I shine my light on them and I just see everything. What do you want? What's holding you back? What's your true potential? It's quite amazing, and I feel so blessed to be able to give this gift to humanity.
So, do you work with a spirit guide, Kerry, or are you intuitive and just picking up from the ether effectively, or from the field? I guess is the right word.
Um, it really, really varies. I work with I know I work with Tobias because Tobias actually is inside of me. I am a soul and a half. So it's going to sound totally weird, but when I was about 4.5 years old, I died. I literally died, and I witnessed my death when I was doing EMDR trauma therapy. And that kind of freaked me out. And I was like, wow, that's weird. So I went to a person that did a life between life session with me because so many people have said to me, you're not from here. You're not from here. And I even had one client literally tell me, you got to talk to this well-known, I think her name is Debbie Briggs or Debbie, I think it is Debbie Briggs. She's a very well-known psychic. She's even on YouTube. But I contacted her back in like 2013 or something like that. She even said, "You're not from here. You're from the brightest star in the galaxy. The brightest one. That's where your home is. Your dad, your mom, your brother, your sister live there." And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Thought she was nuts. But she was right. She was completely right because in 2023, I had a massive spiritual awakening. And that's when I learned about Tobias. And it's so weird because, yes, he's the white lion and he's from Vega, the brightest star that we have out there. And so, yes, he's inside of me, and I know why he's here and what his purpose is. I know that completely.
So,
And so,
oh, his energy, effectively, I guess.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so he's from the sixth dimension. And that's what she said. She's like, you're supposed to go higher. She said, you've already mastered 5D you're already past that. You're supposed to go higher up to the sixth. And I thought she was nuts, but no, she was exactly right. And I think that's what everyone saw different in me is I am a loving person. I do love people unconditionally. I am joyful. I'm playful. I'm happy. I see life in the world from a completely different lens. I always have, and I felt like I've always been like a stranger in a strange land, not really understanding people, but trying my best to understand people. And so I've had ancestors come in when I work with clients. I've even had God, literally God talk to me. I've channeled divine love. I've channeled God. I've channeled so many different things. I even worked once with a Catholic nun, and at the end of the session, she said, "Do you know God talks to you?" And I said to her, "How do you know?" And she said, "Because everything you said and everything you described, I saw it before you even mentioned it." She's like, "I was already there, and it was like you were holding my hand." And I told her, "Well, I am there because the first 30 seconds before I speak through my microphone, I'm praying and I'm connecting to God. I'm connecting to whatever is in the universe, the field, whatever wants to come through me can come through me. And there's no script. I just sit and I let them talk through me." And she's like, "Wow." And so, but here's a funny story you'll like, Andy, and your listeners might like this one. So I was working with a lady that was a smoker. And I don't advertise a lot of times what I do because I don't want to scare people. And people get scared sometimes when they know, wow, she can do this. So at the end of the session, I was getting ready to open my door, and all of a sudden, her grandfather pops in, and he's got his hand against the door, telling me, she can't leave your office yet. You've got to talk to her." And I'm thinking, oh God, please don't do this. Don't. But I looked at her and I said, okay, I got this is gonna sound batshit crazy, but your grandfather's here. And he's telling me that you can't leave this room until I tell you something. And she's like, "Oh, you can see him too? I didn't want to scare you." She's like, "Yes, he is here." And I said, "Okay, his message for you is stop telling your family members that you can see him because they think you're crazy.
Yeah,
They
right.
think you're totally crazy and they think you're losing your marbles. So stop telling them." And he said, "Oh, now your grandmother's here. And your grandmother's showing me a teddy bear that she gave you. It's still on your bed. And when you feel sad and your family is not being nice to you, they want you to cuddle that teddy bear." And she's like, "I do. I have that teddy bear on my bed."
Oh, that's amazing, isn't it? Amazing story.
Yeah. So it just
Yeah.
depends on what wants to come in at a specific time and how I can be of service to you.
Yeah, I think that's a really lovely way to explain it. So, obviously, reading your website, looking at the things that you do, you obviously specialize in sort of hypnotherapy, but trauma. So on the fact that, or on the basis, I guess, that you've worked with trauma and hypnotherapy for well over 20 years, from your
Yeah.
perspective, what do you kind of see driving this kind of rise in anxiety, emotional overwhelm, fear, I guess? How does that kind of play for you? Is it something that's happening in our social societies, or do you think it's a kind of mirror for people in terms of their own lives and the problems that they're going through, experiencing, and not knowing how to deal with trauma and fear?
Well, especially living in the US right now, I look at it as this is part of the process. The 3D timeline is ending. It's no longer going to be the dominant force of this world. And the 4D timeline is building momentum and is getting stronger and stronger. And the 3D is just going away because we're at a point in our evolution, we're done with war. We're done with destruction. We have so many tools and abilities to live in a world of peace, love, and harmony. But the 3D timeline is it's wreaking havoc. Because I always say without great chaos, there can't be great change. And so some of these old, ancient, archaic structures and systems have to collapse. They must collapse. They do not support the whole of humanity. They are run by people that are, their minds are greed, power, control, manipulation. Oh, I'll lie to you and you'll just believe me. And enough people are waking up and saying, no, I don't want that. No, I didn't vote for that. No, you're hurting people. No, people shouldn't be treated like this. And more people are waking up. And so that anxiety is really you feeling intuitively all that chaos that is going on. And you have to realize that it's forcing you to grow and change because when I had my second spiritual awakening, and I did write a book and I wanted to share it with you and let you read it, Andy. And I just published it this last week. It's called Becoming a Divine Messiah. And it is about your becoming and the remembrance. And back in 2023, when I had this huge spiritual awakening, I was shown two books, and I'm not religious at all. One book was the Lamb's Book of Life. The other book was this black book. And what spoke to me was the people that achieve 4D human consciousness or higher will go in the Lamb's Book of Life book. You're going to go in there. The people that refuse to change, that are stuck in greed, stuck in power, stuck in all the dense 3D ways of acting, thinking, and behaving, they're going to go in this black book. And it's about your soul. That's the difference. It's not about your human experience anymore. It's about your soul and the choices your soul is making at that point, because it will determine, do you come back to earth or do you not? Because the doorway is shut for anyone that is, any new souls coming in. They won't come in at a 3D level anymore. That timeline's been cut. I've heard other spiritual people talk about that, but that's what I was told, I was shown. And so the important thing is to realize that you're being given this opportunity to realize that you are a divine being. You are created out of love and light. You are good enough. You are worthy. You're not incompetent. You're not stupid. You're not any of that garbage that people say you are or want you to believe. And we should all, yes, treat each other with the decency and love because we are all our creator's children. It's like
Mm.
you're my brother, Andy, and I'm your sister.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to frame it as well, Kerry, really, that those of us that are on the spiritual path and we realize that we're all connected. So if we do something bad to somebody else, we're doing it to ourselves because we get mirrored back. And I think the spiritual kind of arena, if you like, people like ourselves and the people that listen to these sorts of podcasts are aware of what's going on and they're kind of aligning themselves with new energy, new thought process. We're stepping away from wars and all of the negativity that you talked about. It's obviously in your book as well, I guess.
Yes.
I think this is the key, is trying to get this message out to everyone that we have to make a conscious change and step to the right and sidestep a lot of this negativity and a lot of this pain. And I guess that's where this anxiety that everyone seems to be. I mean, everyone we talk to, our clients every day, anxiety is the key word. Everybody puts it on their forms. I'm anxious,
Yeah.
I'm stressed, I'm traumatized. It is a very kind of commonly used word. But as you said, there's a deeper meaning behind why people are feeling anxiety. I think that is the key part of the conversation, really.
So I'll give you an example. I had one gentleman, he was in his early 60s, come visit me, and his anxiety was so bad. It was energy was like just bouncing all over my office. Just ugh. And I looked at him, and I don't know if you do this, but I looked at him and in my mind's eye, I saw a mouse darting around here and there and there. And I said, "Ooh, your mom. Your mom had anxiety too, wasn't she? She was always like hyper vigilant, just like a nervous person, just kind of like I see a dog, the mouse darting around, and that represents your mom. Was your mom like that?" And he said, "Yes, she was totally like that." And I'm like, "Okay." So you have to think about it is you were a ball of clay, and unintentionally and unconsciously, you took on that anxiety and it became your own, but it's not yours. And then I looked at him more and I said, "Ooh, and your grandmother on your mom's side, that was the same exact thing, wasn't it? Your grandmother, she was always, just so nervous, so restless." And he said, "Yes, she was." I said, "Okay, that's generational trauma. That's passed down from I don't know how many lines, but we're going to clear this. We're going to do an inner child's healing work, and we're going to let that little boy know that you're going to be his guardian, you're going to be his protector, and he's going to get a new job. And that new job is to have you be satisfied with life, where you are grounded, balanced, and centered. You're non-judgmental, you're easygoing, you value freedom, you're a problem solver, and you're very trustworthy. Would you like to do that?" And he said, "Yes." So we did the hypnosis thing, we did the inner child work. And here's the most important thing: I like to focus on language. I like whenever I do parts therapy, and it's very similar to internal family systems, is I say any parts that are listening now or that are on the fence can join the main personality whenever they're ready. But all parts are welcome and all parts are invited to join, because home is where the heart is and we live behind our eyes. And I'm going to say your name, and Andy needs you. Andy needs all parts of you. And he loves and accepts all parts of you. Whether you think you are broken or fragmented, you're all beautiful parts. So all those puzzle pieces, when they're ready, can come together to create a whole new Andy. And now would you like to see how that new life for Andy would be? And then I future pace him and I show him waking up and he's happy with life. He's easygoing. He goes throughout his day comfortable, grounded, balanced, and centered. He's solving problems without dropping down into anxiety or fear. He trusts his intuition and his inner guidance. And what I tell everyone is when I make that recording, I want you to listen for 30 days, because it takes 30 days to rewire your brain. I'm deactivating and deadening the neural pathway circuits in your brain that have to do with anxiety and fear. I'm making them detach. And I'm creating a new neural pathway, which is the positive one. And I want that to anchor in. So then that becomes you. You embody it. You're not pretending, it is the new you. And so what was beautiful, Andy, is 30 days later, I saw that guy again. And oh my God, I was like, dude, This is beautiful. He was exactly what he wanted to be. His energy wasn't bouncing off the walls. And he was like, I want to work on this now. So we just worked on something else.
Brilliant. So that would be, in our world, that would be kind of soul fragmentation. So you're basically bringing back the parts that have, and
Yes.
have they left because of trauma? Because I guess normally it's when people experience trauma that the soul fragments, and we get these parts that kind of seem to remove themselves from the core effectively. Is that the way that you would explain it too?
I don't say soul fragments. I mean, I have done soul fragments when I've done live between lives and past life stuff where yes, the person in a past life had a traumatic experience and it imprinted in this life. I have been able to heal that and repair that on a soul level, but on this one it's more of the spirit that got fragmented.
Right.
So this might sound weird, but this is the logic that they explain it to me is we all have a soul, and that soul is immortal. Okay. We have had many, countless lifetimes. And in every lifetime that we were in, whether it is a human or we were an animal or lived on another planet, there's that spirit that had that experience in that vessel. So when I die, when Kerie dies, my spirit and my consciousness, the subconscious, all that information from that lifetime will merge and blend into my soul. And that is how, when we do life between lives or a regression session, you can access that soul that has all that information and all that wisdom and knowledge about all your lifetimes.
That's a really good way to explain it, actually. So, in our work, from a separate perspective, I guess, we tend to see quite a lot of energetic influences behind patterns that people have. So, in your view, how do you kind of link the connection between trauma, I guess, subconscious programming, and then what might people could describe as like external influence that causes some of that or drives some of that pain and trauma?
Yes, because I always tell people, I want you to tell me what is holding you back. And it either is something internally, like the thoughts we think about ourselves or self-sabotage, procrastination, or it's external. And that could be my brother, my sister, my boss, something outside of our control. And I like to then problem solve from that perspective.
Yeah, it's a good way to explain it. So, in terms of sort of reactive triggers and trauma bonding, I guess, really, why do people stay stuck in those cycles even when they know something isn't right? Do you think it's just, again, fear-based that they can't come out of that cycle, or they just need someone like yourself to take their hand and kind of take them through that journey?
That is a very good question. Some of it is, well, a lot of times it can be fear-based because they know they need to change, but that's what's comfortable, that's what's familiar, and that's what's kind of, they think it's safe, but it's really not safe. And so, and that's why I'm saying they're stuck down in that fear and they need to have the courage. That's a 4D, state of being. You have to have the courage to do something differently. And the thing is, the other big problem I've seen over my lifetime is, and I will say it was my saving grace, is when I learned about the toxic narcissistic traits that people have, it was like a light bulb went off and I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know what projection was or gaslighting or stonewalling or, the triangulation where there's the victim, there's the savior and there's the abuser. I didn't know any of this stuff. And once I learned it, um I was amazed. You don't know this about me, Andy, but I am the author of The Undetected Narcissist. I'm Angela Meyer. That's my pen name. And
Okay, that's
I
interesting.
worked on, when I wrote that book, Archangel Gabriel actually wanted me to write that book. And he said, write it coming from a perspective of love and light. not hate, anger, and fear. And because we humans create them. And I was like, what? Yes, we humans create them. And when I went down that rabbit hole, it allowed me then to have the compassion. It allowed me to have then the wisdom, and it allowed me to accept how these people were created. And so when I went out and I would speak in public about narcissism and I would tell them how their brain works and all this and that, I had narcissists come up to my table and say, thank you. Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you. Yeah, literally. Thank you for helping me understand my brain. Thank you for helping me understand myself. And I look at it as if I was going to be judgmental, full of fear, full of anger, they wouldn't come up to me. And they all said the same exact thing, which I thought was so beautiful, is they all feel when they are slipping out of their cortex brain down into the lizard limbic brain, their survival brain. And I said, so that's beautiful because now you're at a crossroad and you recognize it. So you have two choices to make. You can either take the high road, the 4D consciousness road, which takes courage to tell that person, I care about you and I'm getting triggered and I need to walk away. I need to calm down because you're important to me. I said, if you can do that, that is a gift you are giving them. But if you refuse to take the high road and you take the low road, you're going to come out as being angry and hateful, and you're going to say things you can't take back. You're going to do things you are going to regret.
Did you think with narcissists, they're created from trauma that they've been through? And then
Oh,
we talk about,
yes.
yeah, basically.
The three different ways they are created is three different parenting types: authoritarian, neglectful, and absent. And then the other one is trauma, bullying, and child abuse. Yeah, I mean, there's images I could show you because before I was going to literally make my first public appearance, in talking about narcissism and promoting the book, I had this window of you're going to talk for an hour. And I thought, great, I'm going to do this, have my whole thing set up. And then 48 hours before that happened, I got an email saying, oh, we had some changes. Now you're only going to talk for a half an hour. And I was like, I can't do that. I'm lying in bed praying. And what speaks to me said, no, you can get this done in 8 to 10 minutes like this. I'm going to show you. And I just downloaded, like, literally, like they just images. They're like, you're going to draw stuff like this, and you're going to draw stuff like this, and you're going to just break it
Mm.
all down. And I was like, what? And when I did it, it was like amazing. I had one of my friends come over and look, and he's like, that came out of you? And I'm like, yes, it just, I downloaded all this information. And then, like, isn't it fascinating? And he's like, this is so wild. But it all made beautiful, perfect sense.
I think the story that actually that narcissistic people don't understand themselves is the key sort of takeaway point, really, that because they don't know why they're acting in the way they do, and they don't realize it comes from the experiences they've had and the traumas they've had. And of course, when you can almost mirror that back to them, I guess they get the opportunity then to change effectively, which is where we are as a society, isn't it? There's so many narcissistic people, narcissistic companies, I guess, and narcissism is a kind of trait really it's running through certainly the Western world that needs to be rectified in that way. And I guess until you actually see it and it's raised at a level you understand it, then it's not going to be resolved particularly quickly.
It's true. And the thing is I have a lovely on my husband's side, his brother-in-law. He knows I specialize in narcissism, and we know one of his kids is narcissistic, and he's like, we gave him such a beautiful life. I don't understand. We didn't abuse him, we didn't do this and that. And I said, no, it's generational narcissism passed down. It's the trauma that wasn't cleared. And I said, but he's here in that specific role. He chose to be narcissistic. His soul chose to be this, and some of those narcissistic people are here to push and to shove and to get things moving. It's like, I, uh, all I know is on in the US right now, I'm not going to say the person's name, but he is the great destroyer and he is doing exactly what he's designed to do.
I think we probably know you
I,
mean.
yes. I don't want ICE knocking on my door
No,
going, how
no.
dare you talk about him? We're going to arrest you now.
I know.
You
Well, we
slander.
do have to be careful with these platforms because everything we
I
say is
know.
monitored by AI these days, really.
But the thing is I get him. I understand him. I know what his role is. He's to cause problems and stir everything up to wake people up. Because that was the hard thing when he got elected. I was like, why, God? Why did you do this? Why? And when I calmed down, God said to me, it's not your lesson to learn. It's everyone that voted for him and believes in him because he's lied to them. And it's their lesson to realize that, I really you need to make sure their actions align with their words. And his actions do not align with his words. Because I have a few friends that actually voted for him. And when I sat down with one of my friends for lunch, he was embarrassed, to even confess, yeah, I voted for him. And I said, why? Why? And he said, because I thought he had Christian values. And I said, dude, look what he's doing. Is this Christian values? No, it's not. He just wanted the Christian vote.
Yeah, I think that's the big. Well, that is the big, part of the conversation, Kerry. Really, that we all know in every country, not just yours, our country, the same, every other country probably, that politicians don't tell the truth. Yet we still vote them in and we vote them out. So you have to wonder why, as intelligent people, we even partake in the process. I mean, I stopped voting years ago because it's always red or blue. I don't like red or blue. I don't agree with red or blue, so I don't vote. So people then, when you get round the dinner table, say, "Well, you wasted your vote." You said, "Well, no, but my vote is a vote. I'm choosing not to vote. That is a vote,
Right.
basically." And this is where we are, isn't it? That you're always given red or blue, and that is generally the only choices in most countries. But red or blue are controlled by the same people behind the scenes. So effectively, there is no vote really, because it doesn't matter which way you go, you get a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that. But ultimately, the whole thing's a kind of rigged event. And it's hard to believe that people don't see that, I guess.
It is hard to believe that people don't see that. It is. And the thing is a lot of people are expecting like, oh, this is going to be the end of the world and the yada yada. It's not the end of the world. It's the end of a timeline era. It's the end of the 3D world of greed, power, control, manipulation, lies. That is what is ending. And so everyone is being exposed. The ones that are dirty, the ones that are lying, the ones that are cheating, they are being brought up into the light because that's what the 4D timeline is light. And the 3D timeline is dark. And so the darkness is getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and it is getting exposed, like with the Epstein files and all this other stuff. It's shining light on so many people that thought, oh, I can get away with this. Well, now with the way the world is, you're not going to get away with it. You will be exposed one way or another, whether you like it or not. And that's where people need to show each other grace and and acceptance, but then that's also the key marker for that person to change. Well, yeah, now you're exposed. What are you going to do? How are you going to live your life moving forward? Are you going to, let's say have penance and do something good, or are you still going to stay destructive?
Yeah, I think that's a nice way to see it as well. That again, it's a test, isn't it? People that have been
It
called
is.
out in different ways, or people. Because I sort of think, my kind of view is that most people are generally really good, and I think most politicians that join when they're young really have an appetite to make positive change. But at some point in the process, they get caught up with the greed or with control, and they get kind of manipulated into difficult positions, and then of course they become part of the thing they didn't want to be, which of course is the way the system kind of sucks in everything that's good and then pops it out bad or negative at the back, really. So, from your perspective, then, Kerry, so for someone listening that may feel stuck and drained or not themselves, what are the first sort of practical steps that you could give for them to kind of regain their kind of clarity and balance and get back in control of their life, really?
Well, if you go to mastertheupperrooms.com under free stuff, you will, under free images, the images of what is 3D human consciousness, what is 4, and what is 5 is there. And what I would recommend is if you're really struggling with something, print those out and figure out where you're stuck vibrationally. Are you stuck in grief? Or are you stuck in anger? Are you stuck in anxiety, fear? Where are you stuck? And then figure out what you can do to get you up into the 4D timeline. Because I always say the gifts exist up there. Is it where you need to accept yourself or you need to accept that other person? Do you need to forgive yourself or forgive that other person? Do you need to have a willingness to change because you've been doing the same old thing over and over and you keep getting burned? It's like, when are you going to learn that lesson? That's a willingness to change. And is there a way where you can start to have more gratitude about your life and be satisfied about your life? It's kind of like the saying my husband said to me. I always wanted a specific pair of shoes and was envious of these pair of shoes until I met a man with no feet.
Yeah, right.
So there's so many things that we have that we forget to be grateful for. Like, you've got clean water, you got a roof over your head, you've got a bed to sleep in. The homeless situation is horrible here in the United States. I mean, just devastating. I can leave my house in 10 minutes and I see people in tents, people
Well,
with shopping carts. Yeah, it's very, very sad to see that. And so the thing is to figure out, how can I view this situation from a higher state of consciousness? And what do I need to learn? Like, what is it? Is it boundaries? Is it speaking my truth? And go from there. If you need help or guidance, I offer a free 15-minute consultation, and I'll tell you what I get. I mean, I'm I'm very good at it. I've had people be in therapy for 10, 15 years, and in like 5, 10 minutes, I nail them like that. They're like, "Oh my God, how'd you do it?" I'm like, "No, I listen to you and I listen to them, and then, they tell me."
brilliant. So that's what I was going to say, actually. So in terms of getting hold of you and in terms of the books that you have available, can you just sort of remind us your website is empoweredwithin.com, which is a good one to remember because it's easy.
Yes, yes, I know. I actually have three. So I have empoweredwithin.com, and that's the first baby I started. That's got tons of, I mean, like in the section of fear, I have, I think, at least 90 different topics. Fear of this, fear of that, fear. Just the list goes down. A bunch of hypnosis, subliminal stuff. I do custom recordings off of that. Then there is the undetected narcissist, and that really focuses on helping people heal and recover and understand the cycle of narcissism, but from a lens of light and love, not hate, anger, and fear. And then the last one is Master the Upper Rooms, and that is about human consciousness, of how to evolve. On that one, I'll read people. I will channel, whatever wants to come through to me for that person. I do a wide variety of things, because I always say, we're not we're not like cookie cutters. You can't franchise us and put us all in the same box. Everyone has total different experiences. But yes, you can email me. You can even find me on YouTube, Empowered Within. I've got great podcast stuff on there that I used to do, talking about various things and tons of free stuff. So, and the three books I wrote was Affirming and Focusing on Living a Better Life, The Undetected Narcissist, and then Becoming a Divine Messiah. It's going to be a trilogy series. So I just finished the first one, and I already know what the second and third one is. It's pretty cool.
Fabulous. So it's just time to get them done, I guess, is it really?
It is, yes, but there's one most important message in that book I just wrote. It's from Archangel Metatron, because he literally came to me and spoke to me and said, I want this building built. And this is what it means in the structure and all the rooms. And it is in the Metatron shape symbol. And I described that whole building in there. And what was so fascinating is when I was writing that book and channeling it, I got sick, and I thought I was going to be done. I thought I was completely almost done with the book, and he said, "No, I want you to go on YouTube and learn about Enoch, the history of Enoch."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Okay, I'll watch this." That was him. That was
Mhm.
literally him. I did not know that Enoch was a human that walked on Earth, and the watchers of Earth came down and spoke to him and said, "I want you to do this." And when he did that and completed the mission that they had, he then was turned into Archangel Metatron.
Wow. Well, that's an amazing story, actually.
Fascinating. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yes, and it's woven in that book. The book has so much wisdom because it's set in the future on the new earth. Because I was like, I mean, it makes perfect sense the way that they had me write it and to show people what the new earth is going to be like. There's no money, there's no government, there's no jails, there's no police, there's none of that stuff. There's no stock market or any of it. And it explains it beautifully how it all works in harmony. We have communities, we trade with one another, we love and support one another, and we are working with other beings from other worlds. They literally come down and they work with us. It's
Wow.
very fascinating book.
Lovely. Well, thank you for that. It's been great. I've enjoyed the chat. Hopefully, listeners that hear this will have been intrigued by your life story, really, and obviously your website. I've just had a quick look. Is going to take some reading because there's lots of it there, which is fab. And I think this is the thing, isn't it? When we've got this information, it's trying to get to the right people because people are, hungry for information and hungry to find credible people. And that was one of the things that we wanted to try and do is kind of find people like us, people like yourself, to kind of join
Right.
together, get the message out, provide guidance, and different things work for different people. And the more people we listen to, and the more people we connect with, the wider we can kind of push that message out. So thank you for your time. It's been a great chat, and obviously we'll kind of upload this to our socials. We'll send you links to, of course, and put your links from your websites, your YouTube page, that kind of stuff on there. And no doubt we'll talk again at some point soon.
Thank you so much, Andy. And I was so excited to meet you. And so many blessings to you and to all your listeners.
Lovely. Thanks, Kerry. Have a good
Okay.
rest
All
of
right.
your
Take
day.
care. Okay.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.